Yes, thank you, and welcome back to the SA Sports Show. Time to talk SANFL again with our man who joins us every week, or every week when he can, Luke Marchioro. Hey, mate.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Very
you had
well.
a good game on the weekend. You had a game that really shaped everything. It was really important for both clubs, North and Sturt.
Absolutely. Sturt needing to win to confirm their place. Obviously had a lot that needed to go wrong for them to miss. Mm-hmm. And then North Adelaide trying to get their first minor premiership since 1989. Yeah. Both results ended up happening in the end, but it was a really weird weekend of footy heading into the finals.
It was a great weekend of footy heading into the final. That's what it did. It poked
changed
the bear a little bit all the way along.
I was going to say that the top three teams all lost on the weekend.
And Glenelg probably could have lost as well. They were 20 points down late in that game as well. So
yes.
Going to be got four teams that are in very so-so form heading into the finals now all of a sudden. And it's going to set up for a really interesting month of footy heading into the Adelaide Oval this weekend.
Yeah. Let's explore Sturt then, because you saw that game and they probably are the more informed side in the last few weeks. How did you see their performance?
Well, they had a bad loss to the Eagles the week before, but they've got Tom Lewis back in the last month, who really gives their midfield a bit of extra grunt, gives James Battersby a really good running mate in there. Marty Mattner made a really bold call at selection. He dropped Dave Davis, who was their leading goal kicker, played in their reserves, and they went for a more agile forward line up there, and they really pressured those North half backs, and they were able to turn the ball over and hit the scoreboard, and they did a really good job with that. Those contested, really hard games are where they've really thrived this year, Sturt, and their back six is pretty unheralded. A lot of guys like Rory Ullman and Coomblas and Slimming and these type of guys, along with Casey Voss, have really done a really good job. So they've set them up really nicely now heading into the finals.
Mate, is it a worry for North Adelaide? Because I've just heard a couple of times now where the people are saying, well, yeah, they're a very good side, but when the pump's really on, they've been found wanting a couple of times. This is a worry going into finals.
It's always the issue with these freewheeling teams. We've seen it before, freewheeling, high-scoring teams. They've had really good midfield performances, but when they haven't been able to kick goals, they've really struggled. So teams have got them, those inside midfielders. The Crows have got them twice this year when Haitley and Crouch have played. Sturt have got them with those inside mids as well. Norwood got them at the parade a few weeks ago. So there's obviously some questions that have to be asked there. On the weekend, it was a real bog at Sturt. The ground was really muddy. Okay. So whether you get some dry conditions on a bigger ground at Adelaide Oval and that freewheeling, really neat kicking game that they've got can thrive on the bigger ground is another thing as well.
And the rest. They've got a rest.
And I think, they're a side that can score quickly.
Yes.
So they can be trailing at times and you can just see how they can put the foot down, and they've got some very talented offensive working players.
Their offensive has a little bit. Since Jacob Bauer left in the mid-season draft, they probably have a little bit of struggle through that forward line, finding who their best deep option is, whether it's Hilda or Ramsey or young Tyson Brazel, who kicked 4 goals for them on the weekend. So they've got plenty of options to goal. It's how they go about staggering that balance and setting it up is going to be really interesting.
So elimination final, Glenelg, Sturt, it should be an absolute tight affair.
Be a good game. I think Glenelg do have the wood on Sturt. I think they actually match up really well with them. I think those real key forwards from Glenelg have always done a really good job, and we've spoken about Glenelg's ruck issues before. I don't think Sturt have got that ruckman that are going to hurt them around the ground like a Mitch Harvey would or someone like that have really hurt Glenelg over the last month. So it's going to be a really interesting game of footy. Luke Partington's obviously a big question mark with his foot injury as well. So if he doesn't get back, it probably does tip that midfield balance into Sturt's favour. But if it's nice conditions and those Glenelg forwards like Hosey and McBean and Reynolds can really thrive, they could kick a big score that Sturt might not be able to match up with.
You know, Paul Thomas said that Central's actually led for, I think, 112 or 113 minutes or something, and got done. So they must have done something right, but it almost got to be a little concern for the Tigers, because they've had a couple of those games lately where they've snuck in the end.
Their last 2 wins were Centrals and West Adelaide, who they've just fallen over the line against. They got pumped by South Adelaide down at Noarlunga. Norwood got them under lights the other week as well. So they haven't been able to beat those really consistent top 5 teams in the second half of the year. They've chopped and changed their side a lot. They've struggled with the rucks. They've really struggled to replace Sam Durden down back as well. So there's a few question marks over them, but they've got enough match winners where potentially they could stand up and win a game or two. But they need something out of this midfield group, be it Scharenberg and Lyons. They need someone to stand up in there and give them some extra
Well,
support.
Liam McBean, I think he went into the ruck in the weekend, didn't he? I mean,
In the second half, he did.
He probably turned the game, from what I hear.
He did. In the second half, he went in there and made a real impact for them, and he did the same thing against Norwood as well the other week. Was probably one of their better players. And, Lockie Hosey's a good player playing as that deep forward. He kicked 4 goals on the weekend.
Reynolds.
And Reynolds as well is the other one that needs to stand up too. Yeah. So they've got some young kids as well, so it's going to be a good balance for them. It's going to be a really good game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before we look at the Norwood Adelaide game, Norwood played West Adelaide on the weekend. West Adelaide got up by a point. They've had a pretty good month, and it was released last night that Brad Gotch won't be coaching next year.
Yeah, probably not a surprise to a lot of people involved in the club. Adam Hartlett's been real hands-on in the second half of the season, from what a lot of people have said, and the players have really responded to what he's been able to do. So Brad's always been a really good developer of talent, and I think he sort of laid the foundations there. And now whether they go with Adam Hartlett or someone else moving forward, but they were able to settle their side down in the second half of the year. They were able to find a really good balance, and I think they'll be able to keep building forward, hopefully into next year with 3 wins and 1 more than last year.
A really good point, Luke. I had the great privilege of working with Brad at the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah.
He is a teacher of the game. There's no question.
It
was really interesting. He took a backward step at the last, say, 5 or 6 rounds, and he really put Adam at the front on a match day. So, I think that's got you in itself, almost a succession there. But
that surprised me though. That one that did surprise me, given their last month and a bit. They've been pretty good.
Yeah, they have. And, it's been building, and we sort of talk about it with Central District as well. Like, they've had some wins in the second half of the year. Could have easily beaten Norwood the other week, could have easily beaten Sturt, and could have beaten Glenelg on the weekend. So that could be another team as well to watch out for building into next year.
Norwood Adelaide, quickly.
That's the one.
Norwood, Adelaide, Adelaide haven't beaten Norwood since 2019. Obviously, a couple of COVID-affected seasons in there. I just think that without Crouch and Haitley in that midfield, I don't think the Crows have got enough to go through there. It's going to be a lot of young kids. If they get the ball in there with Gallant and Himmelberg, they're going to get enough opportunities to kick a big score.
Yeah.
So whether that midfield with these young kids like Pedler and Taylor and Cook, whether they can do enough to get them in there, give the Crows and forwards enough of an opportunity. I think Norwood have probably been the best team in the second half of the season, but it's going to be a really good game on Sunday. I think the Norwood midfield will tip them over the edge and they'll probably win that game.
We'll take that.
Well done. Yeah, he'll take it for sure. He'll take it. There are a couple of good games, mate. There's Sunday, Adelaide Oval.
Should be 21 degrees, big crowds hopefully for the month, and with no AFL games clashing or anything like that. Yeah. But should be some big crowds and good standard of footy coming up for the next month.
Good on you, mate.
Well done, Luke.
Look forward to catching up with you next week, mate, to see the aftermath of this really big weekend of footy, which it really is. It's a beauty.
And a great finals
campaign. Well, it's going to be a fantastic finals campaign. I think that the teams that we wanted in there are in there.
Yep.
So it'll be great. Thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up with you again next week. And we'll be back with more in just a moment.